The colonel's laughter was sharp, cutting through the warm afternoon air like a blade. He looked down at her badge, small, laminated, almost unimpressive compared to the glittering rows of medals pinned across his chest. Civilian badge. He scoffed, his voice carrying for the crowd around the checkpoint to hear. Soldiers nearby smirked, their boots scraping the dust as if the moment were some private joke. But she didn't flinch. Her fingers, though trembling, held tight to the strap of her worn satchel, the same one she'd carried through fire, ash, and silence. She knew what that badge meant. He did not. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. She remembered the day they had given it to her. Not in some ceremony with cameras and fanfare, but in a quiet hospital room where the walls still smelled of antiseptic and her body still bore the marks of smoke. They told her she had saved lives that night, more lives than anyone would ever count. But the badge had never been about glory. It had been about permission to walk into places she had once been told were forbidden. Still, standing before the colonel, her throat ached with doubt. Maybe he was right. Maybe to him, it was nothing but paper. The crowd shifted. Sensing tension, mothers drew their children closer. Vendors stopped mid-call. A strange hush fell, the kind of stillness that seems to warn of a storm before the clouds appear. She looked at him, tall, rigid, a man whose every breath reeked of command, and wondered if courage was supposed to feel this lonely. He leaned in, his voice low. "You don't belong here. Not among soldiers. Not with that." His finger jabbed at the badge as if it were a stain on her chest. For a heartbeat, she thought of leaving. For a heartbeat, she thought of never coming back. But then the sound came out, a distant rumble. Tires against pavement. Engines in perfect rhythm. The convoy. The president's convoy. The colonel straightened, chest puffing out, shoulders drawn back. Soldiers hurried into line, boots striking the ground in unison. The crowd gasped, necks craning, dust swirling beneath the flashing banners on sleek black cars. The air seemed to thicken, heavy with protocol and power. And in that heavy silence, the lead vehicle slowed, then stopped, her breath caught. Doors opened with deliberate weight, and from the second car, men in dark suits emerged like shadows. The colonel's smirk faltered. His hand twitched nervously against the brim of his cap. And then, impossibly, the president himself stepped out. The murmurs became a wave, disbelief, awe, confusion rippling through the crowd. The colonel froze. The woman's heart thundered. And then the president walked past the medals, past the salutes, past the polished brass and rigid lines, straight toward her, still carrying it. His voice was warm, quiet, but it carried over the silence like a thread of light. Her throat closed, her eyes burned. She nodded, lifting the badge with trembling hands. The president smiled, not at her badge, but at her. Then he turned, his voice firm now, directed at everyone. "This woman saved more lives in one night than some of us do in a lifetime. This badge," he lifted it gently for all to see, "is worth more than rank. It is the mark of courage when no one is watching." The colonel's jaw tightened. He could not move. Applause began in hesitant claps, then swelled into thunder, rolling through the crowd like a rising tide. Mothers cried. Soldiers straightened, some lowering their heads in respect. And for the first time since that long night in the flames, she did not feel invisible, because courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet hand, a steady heart, a choice made in shadows. And sometimes the world stops just long enough to remember, because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits, and it finds its way back. She had walked in carrying a badge the colonel mocked. She walked out carrying the weight of a nation's respect. That if this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us of the strength inside ordinary people.